The Elon Musk massacre causing a lot of ripples throughout the media waves. And you can see they're very upset about this. They're scrambling and they're trying to figure out what to do about Elon taking control over their platform where they used to go for all sorts of distribution. But Elon is responding. He jumped into a Twitter space. Newsrooms are talking about sanctions, and so is the European Union. And all of that is coming about because Elon threw a bunch of so-called journalists off the platform. And so you have seen that, right? A lot of crying and wailing, caterwauling. Oh, you know, they were very, very okay with throwing other people off the platform. In fact, they were okay with throwing you off of Twitter, off of Facebook, off of Google, off of banking. They were okay throwing you out of your mother's house. If they could do that, they would do it. And they are now very upset that they got a little bit of a backhand. So how did this all start? Well, Elon shared some of the saga with us when he was on Twitter. He said a couple days ago on December 14th, he said, anybody recognize this car? Right. And this guy was apparently chasing down Elon's family's vehicle. They got the car, 17 million views on this video. Just so we know what it sounded like, this is the actual video.
Yeah, for sure. Gotcha.
What's your name?
Got the license plate.
No.
All right, so that guy, right, with his mask and his glove and his hand sanitizer and whatever else that green thing is there, he's driving around harassing Elon. And evidently he got the location because of Twitter, because somebody was following his plane. And there was a Twitter account called Elon Jet that was literally scraping the FAA data and republishing it. Well, the problem with that is that even though that data is public, Elon evidently went one step further and secured his FAA call sign. So he got a special call sign that's a private call sign, so that can't happen anymore. Well, what happened was the individual who programmed the automatic bot to scrape the data and report on Elon's takeoffs and landings, he was able to figure out another way to scrape the data and to correlate Elon's location with this new private ID, which was not legal. So Elon, on December 14th, he was pretty unequivocal about this. He said any account doxing real-time location info of anyone will be suspended. There you go, any account. He didn't say except for journalists, right? As it is a physical safety violation. This includes posting links with real-time location info, right? So even if you don't post it on Twitter, like the Elon Jet account was literally posting his location. He landed at LAX. He took off from LAX. He landed back in Austin, right? And I even think I followed that account. But he is saying it's not just that. If you link, like, so say Elon Jet goes off of Twitter, right? He goes off to, Mastodon or wherever it is these weirdos are going now. They are all hanging out over there. So if he goes over there and posts it and somebody posts a Mastodon link to the data, that will also get you banned, right? And so a lot of journalists were out there and they were sitting around. They were like, well, we're writing articles because we're journalists and we can include his tracking GPS assassination coordinates if we want to, because we work for the New York Times and we are the country's paper of record. And they just sit here, just typing away, just as beautiful. And they publish their stupid articles. And then Elon says, I already told you, idiots, don't link out to my physical location or anybody's location. This includes posting links. Posting locations someone traveled on a slightly delayed basis isn't a safety problem, so is okay. Last night, a car carrying Lil X, I guess this is his kid's name, in LA was followed by a crazy stalker thinking it was me, later blocked the car, moved, and climbed onto the hood. Legal action being taken against Sweeney, which is the guy who actually created the Elon Jet account, and organizations who supported harm to my family, right? So Elon sounds pissed, as you can imagine. If somebody was coming after your son or daughter, I'd imagine you would feel the same way. So this guy, as people are pointing out, right, sort of looks like Antifa, looks like he's actually trying to be menacing, right? This isn't like, whoa, go, like I'm a crazy person or something happened or I thought that you maybe cut me off. This is like, yeah, this dude looks like he's on a mission, right? He's all suited up. He's got his phone out. He's like, oh, there's Elon. I'm going to go take him out because he's wrecking Twitter or whatever. But that's the backstory on this. And so it was pretty unequivocal, right? It's pretty clear what that looks like. And so Elon just tossed a bunch of people off, right? Aaron Rupar's gone and a bunch of other people. And okay. Not too much of value was lost, to be honest. Now, was it heavy-handed? Yeah. Did they get warnings? Kind of, right? I mean, they kind of got a warning, like they got a tweet about it. But, I'm a big fan of warnings, right? We've been suspended here multiple times without warnings, and we tried to follow the rules. And if they would have given us a warning, I would have accommodated the rules, right? We try to do that here. For the stuff that we can't talk about on free speech, censorship, trash platforms, we go elsewhere, right? So we try to comply with the rules. And I think that other people probably wouldn't have tweeted that link if they would have known it would have nuked their accounts, or maybe they would have, or maybe they thought that they were escaping it. Who knows? But the point is, it wasn't just public data that was being republished, right? And not that I think you even need to go this far. I think an anti-doxing policy is perfectly within reason, because you have to think about, right? All speech is not protected, right? You can't incite violence that has imminent and direct violent tendencies, that the person speaks with intention to cause violence and with the crowd receives understanding it's meant to cause violence, sort of an objective and a subjective test. You can't say those things. But doxing somebody is not quite that, but it is a pretty close cousin, right? I mean, it's sort of like, why do you need that data? You're going to go harass them or like protest them? There's other ways to protest Elon. Show up at Twitter headquarters, show up at Tesla headquarters, show up anywhere you want. You don't necessarily need to know where he is geographically. So, but the point is, right, I think that, anti-doxing is a close cousin to anti-incitement, and both of those have already been dictated and communicated, or at least the incitement case has been already mulled over many times by the United States Supreme Court. So we have a framework there. That being said, setting that aside, what it sounds like this kid was doing, you can see here, this screenshot is from Jack Sweeney. And he says, yeah, so the PIA ICIO, which is the tracking number of the plane, it can be changed monthly, right? So Elon's tracking number is swapping around. So they can't track him. But even then, he says it's relatively easy to identify. Like I still know what the plane is. Like I still know where it's coming from and where it's going. And he has a pretty predictable route. And so he says, I actually can write software to identify it, actually. I don't even need the number, essentially, right? Software can do it all automatically, and then he can continue to post about it. So he's not even concerned. But David Sachs, who is a very accomplished individual who also is a bestie on the All In podcast, very good follow and commentator, says, so the FAA gives Elon a new plane identifier called the ICAO every month because of threats to his safety. But Sweeney wrote software to hack that privacy to continue to dox him. How is it legal? Elon says, guess what? It isn't, right? You're not supposed to be trying to circumvent that stuff. And of course, that kid was doing it. So a lot of questions about the legality, a lot of questions about the sort of the context surrounding the suspensions, whether the journalists wanted to actually, break the rules. Like if these were journalists who were spiking the football, if Aaron Rupar says, oh, well, we can't post his bot. Well, then I guess we'll just go ahead and post his links this way, right? We'll go do this or that or the other thing. And so if you're intentionally crossing the red line, it's like you're playing with fire, you're going to get burned. As many have said, FAFO, right, is what Elon and others have hinted at. So there's a new Twitter thread, which of course we will get to. But I wanted to see if there was any more activity from Elon on this. Elon has said that the post, basically, these people are not going to be permanently suspended, right? They got suspended. He's debating whether to bring them back now. Many people have been brought back now, but the others are still suspended. So we'll have to wait and see. But the point is, right, they all sort of knew what was going on, and they were having a difficult time complying with the rules. Now, we'll jump into a Twitter space. Elon clarified some of this in a Twitter space in a minute. But first, I want to share with you this tremendous tweet from our friend Viva, who's over at vivabarneslaw.locals.com, right next door to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, also on Twitter at thevivafry.com, at thevivafry on Twitter is rather. He says, I'm old enough to remember when blue checkmark lefty journalists pretended to care about doxing. He says now it's all about their, quote, free speech to do unto others what they don't want others doing unto them. Man, I told you, it's a fiery tweeter over there. I don't know what he's doing. Vitamins over there. But he posted this. This is Taylor Lorenz crying from I don't know where she's sitting, but she's very upset about this because she got doxxed. And you remember what an absolute catastrophe this was. And again, I don't support harassment. I don't want people getting harassed. I don't want to be harassed. I don't want you to be harassed. I don't want Taylor Lorenz to be harassed. But we have different definitions of what harassment is. Okay. Like using an improper term that might be triggering is not exactly harassment. Saying that you have a different opinion about COVID, about the war, about anything is not disinformation, threatening, harassment, and the like. But Anyways, this is her very much invoking the free speech and all of the concerns that many of them will throw out when Elon Musk invokes them.
Then also you'll see there's many people that are tweeting
very loud.
You know, these are Taylor Lorenz's loved ones.
They have photos. Wow, these are all photos of your family members.
Yeah,
photos.
Yeah, they'll threaten children.
Yeah, they will. Like Elon's. I mean, they literally, like Antifa, like or whatever that guy was, like literally came up to Elon's car. She's dead right.
They'll threaten my parents. I've had to remove every single social tie. I had severe PTSD from this. I contemplated suicide. It got really bad.
That's not good. I don't want anybody feeling that way.
You feel like any little piece of information that gets out on you will be used by the worst people on the internet to destroy your life. And it's so isolating.
Yeah.
And terrifying.
It's horrifying. I'm so sorry. It's overwhelming. It's really hard.
Somebody have some tissues. I'm crying with laughter over here. Somebody get me some tissues. I'm crying. All right. So you can see, absolutely hilarious. Shout out to the Viva, who is, dropping those very nice memories for all of our enjoyment. But that's what's going on over there. And of course, there's a lot more to get to. We're going to check in with Elon Musk and his reaction to all of this on a recent Twitter space. We've got the newsrooms scrambling. This guy actually got suspended for some of his statements against Elon. And we've got the EU that's talking about sanctions against Elon because they are, so offended. They weren't offended when they nuked Donald Trump. No sanctions for that one. But when they nuke their New York Times journos, then everything turns to catastrophe. So we'll get into all of that. First, let's say thank you very much to our sponsors over at 4Patriots. As we've talked about, if you're waiting for a Christmas gift, if you don't know what to get, there's nothing better to put under the Christmas tree than a nice box of survival. My friends, a food shortage could be coming. Even in the United States, experts have written about this as recently as July. Drought, inflation, even new policies are pushing America's food supply near its breaking point. That's why survival food is more important now than ever. And you can create your own stockpile of the best-selling 4Patriot survival food kits ever. This is not ordinary food. We're talking about good for 25 years super survival food, hand-packed right in family-owned facilities in the United States, giving jobs to over 200 Americans. The kits are compact, they're sturdy, they're water-resistant, and they stack easily. They have different delicious breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and you can make these meals in less than 20 minutes. Just add boiling water, simmer, and serve. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including this 3-month survival kit. You'll get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on orders over $97. They're called 4Patriots because a portion of every sale is donated to charities who support our veterans and their families. Go to 4patriots.com. Use code Robert to get 10% off. That's 4patriots.com. Use code Robert. Start building your own stockpile today. That's right. Get that food under the Christmas tree or whatever it is you're celebrating so that we don't have anybody starving to death out there. All right. And so we've got a lot more to get to. I want to go back into this. This is bouncing all over the place today. Let's do a refresh and see what's happening here. Yeah. All right. So we're going to pop this open. We're going over to Elon and his Twitter space. But first, let's get some reaction from the New York Times. The New York Times is very upset about this because they know that they've got distribution that needs to be done on Twitter. And if they don't have access to that, they're in big trouble. But they write, they say, Musk really stepped in at this time, boys. He is facing growing anger over a Twitter ban of journalists. Is he facing growing anger? I was sort of doing cartwheels, but okay. Elon faced a growing backlash on Friday from lawmakers. That's weird. Where was this backlash when they threw Trump off? On both sides of the Atlantic, threats of fines and sanctions after Twitter suspended the account of at least 8 journalists, so-called, on Thursday without warning. He actually gave him warning, though. That was on the 14th. He said, don't post docs. Don't post links. The suspended accounts, including Ryan Mack, New York Times, Donnie O'Sullivan, CNN, Drew Harwell, The Washington Post. Unclear what the suspensions had in common. Also not true, lying New York Times. We all know what it was. It was they posted links to Elon's physical location. They write, the silencing of prominent voices could raise the regulatory heat on Twitter because that's all they have. They can't compete in the private sector. They have to go commandeer other people's products, like the FBI has done, as we'll find out. and possibly Musk's other companies. So because he enforced the terms of service, they're going to now regulate him to death, including Tesla and SpaceX, which is a big recipient of government funding and projects. It could hurt his push to get reluctant advertisers back on the platform. The action set off a wave of protests. News organizations, including Times and CNN, have demanded that Musk explain his rationale. You will answer to us. Supporters of the journalists argued on Twitter that the move was overly punitive. And I can understand that. Like I'm a fan of the warnings, sure. But they didn't do that to a lot of us. We got thrown off Discord immediately. On YouTube, you get one warning and then you're gone. No more warnings after that. So we've been struck 3 times in addition to the warning. There are red lines and sanctions soon, she tweeted. Somebody on a Friday tweeted this today. Who posted this? Vera, who is working over at the EU, said news about arbitrary suspension is worrying. The EU's Digital Service Act requires the respect of media freedom and fundamental rights. Well, what about our fundamental rights? What did Twitter do for the last several years that was trampling all over us? This is reinforced under our act. Elon should be aware of that. There are red lines and sanctions. All right, so you can see, right? These people are petrified that they lost control of the town square, and they're going to do whatever they can to get it back. The recently ratified Digital Services Act serves as a kind of rule book on moderating content. 6% of revenue carries with it a fine. A Democrat out of Massachusetts, member of the House Electronics Committee, also expressed dismay. She tweeted as well. All these people are tweeting, right? They're all upset. They're all on Elon's company. Maybe he should let them on there. You know, oh, you don't like it? Get the hell out of here. Why don't you go join everybody over at Parler when you said that you should just go start your own platform and then threw them off the internet too? Yeah. All right. So you see, this is the New York Times, right? And they're, of course, going to be very New York Timesy. And they're going to be, we're very upset about this. Elon, you're going to be in big, big trouble. And the EU's coming after you. And Democrats out of Massachusetts are coming after you and so on. So Elon then hopped on a Twitter space. And he's sort of getting raked over the coals on this one. I don't see it that way at all. Elon Musk, seen here in this Twitter space, is communicating with a bunch of journalists who are trying to save Ryan Mac. Hashtag MacPack. So it's a bunch of people who go, Ryan Mac shouldn't have been suspended. Save Ryan Mac. And they're dragging themselves in here to form this committee to demand Elon bring them back. But Elon jumps into this space, and here's what he says.
Well, as I'm sure everyone who's been doxed would agree, showing real-time information about somebody's location is inappropriate, and I think everyone on this call would not like that to be done to them.
True.
And there's not going to be any distinction in the future between journalists, so-called journalists, and regular people. Everyone's going to be treated the same. You're not special because you're a journalist.
You're not special.
You're a Twitter. You're a citizen. So no special treatment. You dox, you get suspended. End of story.
That's it. Now you see Katie somebody is about to jump in, and they're going to bring in another person who was actually suspended, and they're going to say, well, I was suspended for this and it wasn't doxing and so on.
And ban evasion or trying to be clever about it. Like, oh, I posted a link to the real-time information is obviously that is obviously simply trying to evade the meaning. There's no different than actually showing real-time information.
So when you're saying posting a link to it, I mean, some of the people like Drew and Ryan Mack from the New York Times who were banned were they were reporting on it in the course of sort of pretty normal journalistic endeavors.
Totally innocent.
You consider that like? I
mean, we were just writing stories about this. Like I was just copying and pasting from him, and he was copying and pasting from him, and we were just saying, that Elon is a total free speech Nazi now because of this personal doxing policy. So we were all talking a bunch of garbage from you. It's our ordinary course of reporting, and we were all very sneaky, right? Extending links back over to other sources. And Elon says, no, you're not immune from that. Don't wrap yourself up in that and try to escape the terms of service.
A tricky attempt at ban evasion?
You show the link to the real-time information, ban evasion, obviously.
There you go.
Drew, I don't think you were posting the real-time information,
Drew
right?
Here.
I mean, you're suggesting that we're sharing your address, which is not true.
That's not what he's suggesting. He never said that at all. He said posting real-time location information. That can include flights and all sorts of other things.
And you're suggesting that we're posting And we never, I never posted your address.
You posted a link to the address.
There you go.
We posted a link. In the course of reporting about Elon Jet, we posted links to Elon Jet, which are now not online and now banned on Twitter. And Twitter also, of course, marks even the Instagram and Mastodon accounts of Elon Jet as harmful. Using, we have to acknowledge, using the same exact link blocking technique that you have criticized as part of the Hunter Biden New York Post story in 20.
Oh, give me a break. It's a totally different situation. The New York Times story with Hunter Biden was fakely censored because they called it hacked materials. It wasn't that at all. It wasn't Hunter Biden's location. It's a whole different policy. He's saying, yes, the same technology, right? You blocked it, right? Because that's what Twitter built in, evidently, to protect their platform. They just said, oh, you add this link into the block box and it blocks out every single tweet, every single thing. He used the same technology, except he just put in Elon Jet instead of Hunter Biden's laptop. And he's saying it's the same. Yeah, sure. It's the same technology. It's the same ultimate effect, right? That story is no longer allowed on Twitter, but the justification is different. The justification in this case is that this speech has no utility at all. What is the utility in showing where Elon lands so that Antifa psychopaths can go and attack his kids? No, there's no utility in that. So when we do our free speech analysis in the real world, not in New York Timesville, we ask ourselves about that. What is the utility of the speech? There is none here. The utility, when it comes to attacking Elon or knowing the doxing location, there's very little utility. I can understand like a protest utility, or why like an investor might want to know what Elon is doing and stuff like that, right? But the balance of the potential harms, the balance versus the utility of the free speech, it's not even close. There's really, it's not even, I think, within debate, right? It's a close cousin to incitement, and Elon has made the decision that that's what happened. Now, to conflate that with this Hunter Biden story is also totally dishonest. The Hunter Biden story has a ton of utility. It was about the candidate for president's son in the months right up to an election. Everybody wanted to know about it. Everybody needed to know about it. But what they did is they censored it not because of doxing. That's not the thing. They didn't say that at all. None of those tweets got the doxing excommunication violation. No, they were because it made their candidate look bad. And so they came up with different justifications to ban James Wood. They even dumped Kayleigh McEnany, Trump's press secretary, for the whole thing. So this Drew person, whoever this dishonest individual is trying to sort of skewer Elon on this and say, well, you just did the same thing that Twitter did before. Not true at all. He didn't do that at all. It's a whole different policy, but they're trying to rub his face in it. They know what they did. They know better, right? They played with fire. They got burned.
Using the same exact link blocking technique that you have criticized as part of the Hunter Biden New York Post story in 2020. So what is different here and there?
No more acceptable for me. It's no more acceptable for me, for you, than it is for me. It's the same thing. So anyway.
So it's unacceptable what you're doing?
No. What you dox, you get suspended. End of story. That's it.
Elon.
Bye. Elon jumped out of the chat. He's out. See you guys. We're done. You doxed, you get suspended. There's not much else to say about this. And so if you got any issues with that, I guess take it up with your own social media company. Good luck. Now, other newsrooms are scrambling. This guy evidently got suspended. This story broke over from Max Tanney over at Semaphore. And he's telling us sort of a inside baseball with the media. Posted this on December 16th. He says, newsrooms are scrambling to counter Elon Musk's bans. They're freaked out about this. They're jumping all over the place. Twitter suspended a bunch of people, including Keith Olbermann, who went on his dog's account. The news organizations are now considering a range of options to respond. All right, so they're all like in panic mode because they know big time that this is not going to be good for them. If they don't have Twitter as a distribution platform, they're going to be hurting in ways that they can't even fathom. And in fact, I had a tweet about this. Here's what I said earlier today. I said, Twitter is a necessary lubricant for the antiquated gears of the old news media, right? The old news doesn't have distribution. They don't have social media. Without distribution, their copy and paste stories stay on their homepage, and the New York Times journos need Twitter more than Twitter needs the New York Times. People like this Tyron fella are saying that the Twitter needs the New York Times more than the New York Times needs Twitter. I don't agree with that at all. I think that it's a lubricant. it makes the entire media ecosystem continue to work. And if they can't post their stories out there, then they're going to be in big trouble. And so what are they doing? They're scrambling. They don't know what to do. They're considering a range of options to respond. People familiar with the conversations have told him. They range from pulling coverage from Twitter, right, taking the whole entity off the platform, as CBS News did briefly in November, to retaliating against Twitter's advertising business. CNN executives have discussed whether their corporate partner, Warner Media Discovery, would stop advertising on the platform. News orgs have also discussed dropping out the Amplify program, in which they post videos to Twitter and share in the revenue, or simply asking their staffers to stop contributing to the surface. Just get off there. NBC News had already benched one of its journos, who reportedly was on Twitter, had harshly critical views of Musk. They temporarily suspended this guy called Ben Collins from covering Musk on the airwaves. According to two sources, the new network told Collins earlier this month that his criticism of Musk, which included comments about how the billionaire was purposefully trying to destroy Twitter, was not editorially appropriate. He continued to tweet about those reports, and they released a statement on Thursday calling the move questionable and unfortunate, they said. Wow, brilliant. I wonder how many writers it took to come up with those three words. And they called for the tech company to offer an explanation of the suspension. Privately on Friday, the paper's leadership asked staff not to fight with Musk on Twitter. Yeah, good call. Meanwhile, the news org aren't sure whom to call to mediate the conflict. Yeah, isn't that a problem? You know, it would be nice if we could just have a nice set of uniform terms and that we had some trust in this space, but unfortunately, nobody trusts the media. CNN staffer told Semaphore that network executives scrambled last night to reach Twitter after O'Sullivan was suspended. But almost all of the network's previous contacts at the company had been fired. Sorry, can't pick up the phone. They're like, should we call our Twitter rep? Oh, man, Ligma's not there anymore. You know, it's a big problem. Musk said that some received a 7-day suspension for doxing him by sharing publicly available information about his plane. All of that is, of course, true, as we just documented. So they're freaked out. They don't know what to do about it. And this is what this guy, I think this is Ben Collins. Ben Collins. I'm not sure who this is. Let's see if they give us a name. But this was some journo on MSNBC who is talking about Elon Musk, and he's very emotional.
Pizzagate, cabal style stuff. The idea that the world is secretly run by this new world order, and it is trying to censor you. It's trying to prevent the world from seeing what's really going on. And that Nancy Pelosi and people like that, those people in the QAnon spaces right now, those people are at the top of that sphere. They are at the top of that pecking order when it comes to how people believe in conspiracy theories. And I do want to stress this. Right now, trending on Twitter is the lie about this guy. It's the lie that...
It's trending.
It's trending on Twitter as we speak. Because Elon Musk pushed it on Saturday.
I think he's talking about the Paul Pelosi meme.
I just want to make it clear how they got to this place. So, first of all, lies on the internet move faster than the truth. And that's in part why there are all these safeguards that Elon Musk is trying to take down on Twitter right now. The lies that...
They're not safeguards, right? These are misinformation filters. Guess who gets to define what misinformation is? Well, we're going to learn about it in the next Twitter files. And he says that specifically, the removal of the safeguards is going to cause more harm, when we all recognize that the safeguards were not there to prevent harm at all. They were there to prevent one political party for gaining an advantage in this country.
Were from bad pieces of information they found. For example, they said that Paul Pelosi was in his underwear. Of course he was, 2:30 in the morning at the time he was attacked. That led them to believe this was a lover's quarrel between two different people that knew each other. The reason they believed they knew each other is because the police put out a statement saying that they didn't really know who opened the door. So that led them to believe there was a third person in the house. Mm-hmm. So from there was this world building on the pro-Trump internet, as in the internet, authoritarian history. But I've read Hannah Arendt. I've read all of these people. Mm-hmm. This is how it gets really bad.
Oh, man.
This is the start of something that gets really, really bad.
Oh, man, you're kidding.
If you are getting the guardrails off the truth, where it literally cannot catch up to the lies on the internet because of how the pipes work, how the system works, because of the incentives of the richest people in the world, then that's how you lose your democracy.
Yeah, we're going to lose our democracy. So guys like him and the MSNBC goons should all just be censoring us even harder. Censor us harder so we can be freer, please. So we saw that the EU is also threatening Elon Musk, right? The threats are not going to stop. They are here. We've got Vera Journo, who you heard about a little bit. She says the arbitrary suspension is worrying. Twitter suspended people. She says that the EU law requires respect of the media, freedom, and fundamental rights. Says there are red lines, and it's all coming soon. So the account Elon Jet, which previously tracked Elon, was suspended. And of course, all of the government bureaucrats, they know, right? They know, man. They said, we need Twitter. We get a lot of money from Twitter. We have to post whatever we want. We're able to shut our critics up on Twitter. And now we don't control it. So how do we get that back? Well, they're going to use the strong arm of the government to attempt to do it. So we'll see how that works out for them. Of course, we'll continue to support Elon as he wages this battle for free speech. And I hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing wherever it is you're watching this. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.